We're live. No more swearing. Oh, yeah.
Something's come up. Okay, got some cookies. Allow all cookies. Log in. Come on. Don't let me down now. This is where we need Surinder to do his magic, but never mind. He's yeah. Apparently we're live on Facebook. Let me see what the heck is this going on? This is, you can tell we're really professional here in this, aren't we? Anyway, I'm lucky with that. Right, I think we are live on. Hang on a minute. Right, let's get the link. The property professional. Look, this is all live, real life. Yeah, that's a bit silliness going on. I'm trying to find this light. Ooh, hang on a minute. So I sound like Thingamajig, don't I? What was that guy who used to be in you know the one, sorry, the actor in Carry On who used to keep saying ooh, and all of this sort of stuff. I don't know if you guys remember that. Right.
Kenneth Cole.
Sorry?
Kenneth Cole.
No, not Frankie Howard.
Oh yeah, okay.
He's the one that used to say ooh and all of this stuff. Right, all right. We are live somewhere. I can't work out where, right? Hopefully we're on live on Facebook, and hopefully we're live on YouTube Property Professionals channel. I can't guarantee, I can't see what's going on here. All right.
Can we test it?
Hang on. Frankie Howard. Oh yes, we're live on.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right, okay. So can I share? Yes, I can share this bit. Wow, cool. Right, I'm going to put this in the group now. This is extra magic we're doing today. There you go, Bernadette. It's in the speakers group. Okay. That's live on YouTube. We're on Facebook. YouTube's obviously my favorite. You know, not being sponsored by them. Right. Okay. So I'm going to put that away. Right. Welcome to this program of. My camera's gone. Right, welcome to this TPP special edition. I've got extra 50p's today. We've got a super special guest. We've got something really important. So I'm going to do something really hard for me, which is try and stay quiet for the next few minutes. Pass over to Bernadette and let her share I think it's a really important subject. Bernadette, I'm going to keep quiet or try my best for a little while. Over to you, and give us a little intro and tell us what you're going to talk about, and don't forget to say next slide. Yes.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Dill, for inviting me back to talk on this interview today. I'm really, really grateful. So I'm Bernadette Anderson. So some of you know me already. So I'm a property and social housing developer. So Dill and Charanjit had invited me back today to talk about what I'm doing in social housing, and specifically around children's kids care. So my business partner and I, another wonderful guy, and his name is actually Guy Allen, we are collaborating together, and we are working with children's care providers to develop care homes. But with what's been going on in the market, we hit some hurdles, and we have been thinking about how we can actually move forward, because we can't just stop. So I wanted to take the opportunity that I was given today to present to all of you, and hopefully find more philanthropic investors to help us develop our kids' care homes. So next slide, please. So why do we want to develop children's care homes? There's actually 80,000 children in care in the UK, which is a really scary and alarming figure. And that means that's 1 in 100,000 children. Now, you know, it's quite obvious why we would want to help children. You know, if you can imagine that a child doesn't have a home, what sort of stability does that give to any sort of person? Now, for those of you that know me, I've actually been a philanthropist for the last 17 years or so, and I have helped many, many people, in particular around the homeless, and in the last couple of years with care leavers. Now, when I was working with the homeless, I have seen people come from all different backgrounds, who look like they've been living on the streets, and some people look very smart, but they just don't have somewhere to go. And the reasons, they have all different reasons why they get to that point. And you know, some of those reasons are because they've had a very unstable upbringing, and they haven't had a loving home where they have been brought up. So the last few years where I've spent a lot of time, I guess, reacting to helping people, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now I want to use my property knowledge, since I've moved into the world of property full time, to actually come from a more strategic point of view. So we are working with children's care providers who are registered, they're approved, and they're assessed, and they will have a good rating or more. And we will work with these providers. So we will actually develop care homes for the providers so they can actually house these children. And I keep saying this, but I really couldn't think of anything better to do than what we're doing at the moment. Next slide, please. So I've touched on this already a little bit. You know, reasons. You know, we don't need to explain, or I don't need to explain why a child needs a home, and it might be because you know, they've been living in deprivation. It might be because they've come from a single parent family. There's many different reasons, and sadly, a lot of these children can get abused and neglected. And I to think of a child being in that situation and not doing something to help them when I've actually got the knowledge to help them now, I don't actually feel that I would be, what's the right word? I've not been true to myself. I know I've got more of a purpose in life. So this is what I can actually do to try and help others. Next slide, please, Dill. So as I said, it's collaboration with children's care providers, and I've touched on these points already. And the important thing here is that, you know, you do hear some stories sometimes that, oh, some care homes, any type of care homes, it could be the elderly, even, in fact, you know, maybe they might not be run properly, but there are procedures in place. So I mentioned before that we will only actually work with providers who actually have a good rating or above, and that's really important because we have been approached by others, and when we've actually done our due diligence and checked them out, they haven't actually passed our requirements. So it's just to reassure and let people know who don't know how this all works, just so I'm kind of touching all this so you can piece it together, but we carry out due diligence on our providers also. And if they pass what our criteria is, then we will collaborate with them, because for us, this isn't a tick in the box exercise. It's not about just putting children into a home and then forgetting about them. This is actually giving them support. This is giving them the guidance, the care that they need to actually grow into an adult who is self-sufficient, who can take care of themselves, that doesn't give up, and has the support around them to actually, you know, live their life. Because a lot of children who grow into adults, they don't have that care, they don't have that support. And I'm actually in contact with some of these people, and it's heartbreaking to see. So if we can come from it from an angle, I mean, think of any kind of type of project, better to prevent than react. And if we can help children now at a younger age, then as they get older, they've got the infrastructure around them, they've got the support, the guidance, the care to give them what they need to have a better start in life. Next slide, please, Dill. So what we need. So the whole purpose of this interview was to share what Guy and I are doing. And because of the changes in the interest rates, which I'm sure all of you will know, it's killed a lot of opportunities in the property sector, and in particular, the children's care sector as well, because basically we're still in this huge transitional phase where the money and funds that providers get is not enough to cover what the rent and what the lease would be. So here, what we're asking for, we're looking for, Guy and I are looking for what we call philanthropic investors. And a philanthropic investor is someone like Guy and myself who actually care more about housing children rather than the rate of return we get on our investment. Because we will only actually really just about break even on these projects. And in the long term, we'll make a little bit to get by. But for us, our main priority, this is not for profit. This is really to house children, to make a difference to society. Guy is a wonderful person also. We're both very similar. We both have very good outlook on the big picture in life and what life is about. Because life is not about materialistic things, and we can take none of these things with us when we leave. And when we leave this earth, it's going to be about what was our footprint, who did we help, what did we do? And here, Guy and I were using our property knowledge in such an amazing way. Now that all the pieces of the puzzles come together, where we're hopefully just about to develop our first care home. So someone who actually saw my last interview with Dil and Charanjit, so thank you guys so much. I actually happened to meet at an event a couple of weeks later, and he said to me, "Oh, you're Bernadette Anderson. I saw the interview you did with Dil, and you came across really well." And we were chatting away, and I was telling him what I was up to. And basically, we're at the point now where he's introducing me to one of his investors who is potentially going to invest in our first care home. And he's actually introduced me to a couple of other investors as well. I've actually met someone else and growing that relationship with them. And they are actually putting out the word for me in regards to the care homes. And someone else who I know has actually come back to me and said that we will fund one of the care homes. So it's incredible. So I've always wanted to do something like this, but I've never wanted to do it on my own. Collaboration is key. It's when you're working on something, whatever it is, projects in anything, work together to get the end result, because otherwise you can fall over. And if you don't have someone to bounce ideas off, it's difficult. And I finally now met Guy. Guy and I, we met a couple of years ago at an event, at a property event, and we've grown that relationship. And it's wonderful that now that I've got someone who I can do this with. And I think that the thing for me, which I have to kind of pinch myself sometimes, is that I'm actually at the point where it's happening. And for years I've wanted to do this, and I wasn't sure how to do it. It just goes to show when you put your mind to something and you know what you're aiming for, if you keep taking the steps, you'll eventually get there. And now we're here. So I'm asking all of you, if you can help in any way, please get in contact with me. My name is Bernadette Anderson. You can find me on LinkedIn very easily. You can find me on Facebook. I am on Instagram, but not so much. You can get in contact with Guy Allen as well, either by Facebook or LinkedIn. Drop us a message and see how you can collaborate with us. Because, if you can actually give more purpose to others in life, and if you can actually help to change the course of someone's life, that is more rewarding than anything, and priceless, because you just can't put you can't put a price on that. So this is what I wanted to share today. Thank you again, Dil and Charanjit, and thank you all for listening to this. And I welcome any questions, any thoughts, any ideas. Just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette, for coming back, sharing some wonderful news. And look, I'm guessing it's early steps yet, but it's important. We all, as they say, the longest journey starts with the first step, or something like that. So, am I right in thinking that you're making progress towards this project?
Well, we've just put an offer in on our first property.
Fantastic. That's great news. So,
so we're waiting for that to be accepted, fingers crossed, and then it will just need to go through a small planning phase. And then we can, and actually that's another good thing about these properties, and that's actually a really good point. So thank you, Dil, for prompting me. It's a really simple concept. We're looking at kind of 3-bed houses. We've identified properties already. which the provider will work with. And here, there's no major refurb that needs to be done. All we need to do, we change it from we just have to change the planning class. We've got a relationship with the council already, and so has the provider. So this should actually be quite straightforward for us. And so in terms of actually turning this around, it could all be set up quite quickly. And I think with the response that's we're getting at the moment, I think it's quite realistic. You know, in a year's time, we could potentially have 3 already set up. And I think that's a really realistic target.
Wow, that's really great news. So what do you need from people watching this, anybody watching this? What would you like from them?
So let's take a 3-bed house as an example. And these houses, they're priced around 350,000. So ideally what we're looking for a sole investor or 2 investors to collaborate with one another and basically provide the funds for the complete purchase of the property. So we will not be using bank lending. And the reason for that is because these properties are actually classed, because there's a carer on site, it actually makes a difference on how that property is classed. And unfortunately, it falls into the commercial bracket. Now, because if it was fall into the residential bracket, then the rate would be a lot lower. But because it falls under the commercial bracket, that means with the new base rate, which I think is 5% at the moment, the commercial mortgages are tracking 3.5% above that. So if the provider is paying us 9%, as an example, and we're paying 8.5% literally just for the lending, there's nothing else at all to cover any of the other costs. And that's why it doesn't work. So this is why we are looking for philanthropic investors who will take a smaller return on their money, and then we will pay them a return each year. And then we can get one of these care homes, or each time we secure a site, then we can get a care home set up, and each 3-bed house will have 3 children and 1 carer. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Sharon, have you got any questions on this?
Oh, yes. Hi, Bernadette. Hi. Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah, no, this sounds really, great. Yeah, I was going to ask a question about, the children's care home providers that you work with. Are they privately run, or are they sort of, run by the council?
So they vary, actually. So they collaborate with the council too. So it really does depend on the setup.
Right. Okay. And in terms of the investment that you're looking for, you've just made it clear that obviously you're looking for investors who can help you with the purchase of the property. That's yes, right. Yeah. And in terms of the running costs of the care homes, where's the funding for that coming from?
Well, so because we want to put into the project as well. So we will be covering the stamp duty, for example. We will be covering the refurb costs. Of course, if people want to help us in different ways, we're not going to say no to that. but that's what the current plan is, because at least if someone is lending us money so we can purchase property, then we can give them a first charge security against the property. So at least the investor knows that their money is secured, and that's the whole point of it. Obviously, if you're borrowing money for a refurb or for stamp duty, that investment isn't secured against anything. And for those of you who aren't not sure what that term is, if you can imagine, you've got your residential mortgage, the bank, if you've got a mortgage, the bank has a first charge against your property. So if anything went wrong, the bank has the right to take that property away and sell it. And likewise, so it would be the same for whoever has that first charge. So for us, it's really important that our investors are clear that their money is secured and it's visible. That they can see it. So that's really important for us.
Okay, great. So my understanding is that you're just looking for funds for the purchase of the property.
That's fine.
And then you'll be handing over the running to the care home providers who will, fund the running of the homes.
Yes, yes, because we won't be the providers ourselves. It might
Yeah.
be something Guy and I look to do in the future. That's actually quite possible. But to actually just start this, so we would be leasing the properties to the providers, and the providers will then run the care homes. And then obviously they are registered and they're checked each year by Ofsted. So there is that whole process to make sure that everything is going as it should.
So did you say you're about to secure your first project, first home?
So we've put an offer in, so we're waiting to get back on our offer, which is amazing.
Right. And are these locations secret, or will you be able to at least show us around the first one as and how you're doing it?
Oh, we would love to.
Yeah, because it's fascinating. I literally walk by. It's not quite a care home. It's one of these places that gives people a break from caring, and I didn't realize, but I used to see a lot of people who you could tell need care with their carers walking around in the park, and occasionally I'd ask the carers, which home do you work in, and they wouldn't tell me. So I was just wondering if it's I actually walk by this place twice a day. It didn't occur to me because it looks like a normal house or actually a block of flats, and it's just so hidden away. So that's why I was asking, are you able to go through it, look at it, show us the project as you're refurbing it or whatever you need to do to it?
We can definitely do that. And then once the home is actually set up, it might be a case of we just show you around what we've done.
Yeah.
But then don't actually include any of the specific details.
Of course. And look, for projects like this, if you bring on board people and show them around the project, and property projects always have challenges. If you've been in the property business any while, you'll know it'll have challenges. So share that with us, share the journey. It's all about showing people what's going on. And in the press, people always talk about greedy landlords and all of this sort of talk. And yes, look, there are bad landlords out there, but it's amazing what you're trying to do is use your skills to benefit people, and I'm guessing plug that gap in. Yeah. Well,
there's just such a huge demand for it, and I see, because I've worked so much with the homeless, and then more recently with care leavers, I see what happens to people, and it's tragic. I'm so blessed that I'm privileged that I was born into the life that I was, and I was given so many opportunities, and some people don't have that. So, it's only but I've made this also for myself, because I never sit still and I'm always doing something and on to the next thing. But I'm lucky that I think like that also. So I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for what I've achieved. And I know that I need to give back, because I've done a lot the last few years. And then and I did a lot during COVID also to help people and different groups of people also. But then I realised it was more reactive, and that's where I'm coming more from the point of I want to do something more strategic. But the great thing is now we can do that, and for me, then we can help to set out a path for young people so they get what they need in life.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fabulous. Look, I have seen people who get to the age of 16, 18, and then there's a transition period where they try and put people into the community that have been brought up in these care homes. And I don't think people realize how let's put it this way. A lot of us are fortunate to have parents. Some don't get on with their parents, and very few people I associate with have lost their parents and been in that situation where they've had to go to care. You basically can't imagine what it's like. So anything you can do to help those children in care, and I've come across various elements of that at various stages of that process. It's fantastic. And like you said, I think we're in a time of recession now, and we've all come across people who've become homeless for various reasons. And I remember being one of my first jobs, and my boss used to say, and at that point they were going through a recession phase. And, you know, although my boss was reasonably wealthy, he used to say, look, because the banks were calling in the loans at that point, I always remember this. He said, therefore the grace of God go I. And it could be any one of us ending up on the street through no fault of our own. So look, if you can help with Bernadette's project, and we'd love to have you back on and take us through this project step by step. It's great, you know, it's fantastic. Take us through it step by step. But also I'd say, look, you know, when we see homeless people, we should show them some sort of compassion and empathy. And look, I don't buy them, I don't give them cash, because I can see they're either going to spend it on drugs or alcohol, but at least give them some compassion, empathy, talk to them nicely. And then you realize why they're on the streets. You know, it's not always their own fault. Things fall apart. And it happens to us as human beings. It's a great project. And I know you're starting at this, and then hopefully it'll lead to more projects, and, you know, projects to do with other homeless elements, and people helping people who've gone through those challenges. And, you know, it's fantastic. Charanjit, any views on that? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Dill. I think if you know, Bernadette, if you shared the journey and step by step, just like Dylan said, I think that'd be really great to have everybody involved, and also keep sort of some kind of momentum going. So if investors are even thinking about it, you know, they can see what's going on. But also I was just trying to think of what other questions potential investors might be interested to know. And I was just wondering what kind of legal structure you're using for this project. Are you using sort of just a private limited company, or are you setting up a charity?
So actually I was having a conversation about this today. So our tax advisor would need to confirm, but we're maybe looking at an SPV, a special purchase vehicle, which is a normal setup for a company, or maybe something like a KICS, a CICS. So we just need to just confirm what's the best setup with what we want to do and what we want to achieve. Okay. So that's not finalised as yet. But yes, now there's all these other little things to sort out.
Well, I mean, that's how, you know, and I think you used to be a project manager actually in your professional life. So sometimes with projects, if you're doing something new, you have to sort of come across these hurdles, these challenges, and deal with them as and when you come to them, because you know, not unless you're used to doing a particular type of project, you're not going to always come across these, and you're always going to come across new ones. Am I right thinking that you at the moment you're looking for one or two investors to share a house, if you like? You're not looking for small amounts of investors, is that right? Or
ideally, we're looking for a sole investor to provide the funding for one whole house. So that might be, let's say, 350,000.
Yeah.
Or for two investors who may know each other, and they decide, okay, we're going to do this together. It just becomes a lot easier with the paperwork and the setup, and that we know then we can get that, we can put the offer in and we can get it accepted and actually start developing that property on behalf of the provider. But I remember you having some other ideas before. I'm just remembering when we were talking about this as well, Dill.
Yeah. I mean, look, so you're going to give some sort of return to those investors. You're not asking for free money or a donation, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you, I mean, I'm assuming that hopefully this first one will go ahead, and if you could then come back and talk us through it. I think it might be an idea to have, I guess we've got to talk to the lawyers about this, how we can have smaller investors just to take part in it, because, you know, the more we can make this easier for smaller investors, then it could be someone with 5 or 10,000 that they could put in. And you're going to give them some sort of return. You're not asking for free money, but it might, I mean, that might be an idea thinking about or exploring. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just, and just as you've asked me, then I'm remembering our conversation before. No, I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Because obviously, we don't want to cut people off who might be able to help, and it's good to give people an opportunity to help, and obviously that helps us, and then that helps us to help the children also. So yeah, that's definitely something worth looking at and exploring. So thank you. Great idea.
Yeah, and I was going to say I think it's very important to think about the structure as well, the legal structure very carefully. So it's great that you've already spoken to your tax advisor, but also if you want to say you want to approach, trusts or foundations, very often they've got a lot of money as well. So yes, you could approach private investors, but you can also approach foundations. I don't know if you've thought about that, but then you'd need to be a charitable structure to do that. So yeah, there's all kinds of things, isn't there? That
yeah, so I think,
here.
Yeah, definitely lots of things to think about, and really excellent point, challenging. And here, I think at this moment in time, we want to provide the property, and later on down the line, then consider maybe actually being a provider ourselves, because it's quite, I've looked at doing this before. And it's, I think just so we're clear what we're doing from the beginning, because obviously this is a new venture for us as well. So where we can, as we gather all of our knowledge from the providers that we're working with, then we can look to do something ourselves, if that makes sense, because then we can benchmark, and we've seen how it's run already. And this is why it's easy for us to do this, because we've got all our property knowledge. So it's easy for us to then think, okay, well, now we can use this to do something else. So I think the first thing is, let's secure the building, and then we provide that to the providers, and then maybe later on down the line, possibly do what you're suggesting. But also I've had this conversation with a few people actually this week, because I've been talking about the care homes a lot, and I think everyone has their part. So I think at this moment in time, I see myself, and Guy sees ourselves more as the bonds that are providing the buildings. And because we've got the skill set, we can do it very easily. The first care home is underway. There's no reason, as I said, why the next couple in the year or so we'll have another couple more. And I think also, I don't know, maybe it depends how involved I want to get. It's I'm a very one-to-one person, and I've worked very closely, especially with the homeless, and not just the homeless, but I've done all sorts. I've been in the refugee camps, also in Athens several times, and it's all very personal. And I just need to think about, how is my time best spent? Where am I most effective? I'm really good at what I do in property, and Guy and I, we're the ones behind the scenes. We could be setting up multiple homes for people, as opposed to maybe getting spending time on one home, for example. Does that make sense?
100%.
That makes total sense.
I think it's what you're thinking of is leveraging your property skills to enable the carers to do what they can do. So it's not just the case.
They're the specialists.
Yeah. So it's a case of applying your skills and knowledge to an area where you could do them. You could get the maximum benefit and get the maximum leverage. So from my point of view, I totally see what you're trying to say. You're saying it's the skill in acquiring property might be the most valuable skill to those sorts of projects. There's care companies that can do it. There's people that can run homes, but what they're missing is that element of finding the property, getting the funding, and being able to bring those homes into use. And that's why there's probably a lack and demand for those sort of properties. And I think it could be the point where your skills are most appreciated and used. Totally makes sense to me. When do you think you'll be able to come back and show us what you've done with with your first home and with your first project?
I think realistically in about 6 months.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no.
But I'd say that's a realistic timeline, because obviously it often needs to get accepted. It needs to go through the conveyancing process. We need to refurb the property. It might be a bit longer, but that's kind of at least a minimum. It wouldn't be anything before that.
Yeah, I mean, look, once your offer's accepted and you bought the property, it might be an idea to have a look at the property as a before, right?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I always find, you know, when I see presentations in property meetings, you always see the finished product. You don't see the before, the during, the sweat, the blood, the tears, and what it looks. You always see the shiny finished product. You don't see all the stages as and when it goes on. And I think it's great for everybody to follow that.
No, that sounds like a great idea. Sorry, there's a fly flying around.
That's all right. Charanjit, any other views or suggestions from you?
No, I just think it's just great. I think it's really great to highlight this kind of a social project, and to have someone like Bernadette, you know, doing that. I think it's, yeah, I think we'd love to see the progress, and love to see you back in 6 months or so.
No,
See how you're doing.
we want to see you before. As soon as you sign on the dotted line, you get the keys. Please come back. And look, thank you so much for sharing. You know, it just seems like yesterday when we first had our first chat, and you said,
I know.
You know,
I know.
I'm thinking of doing this, but look, it's what they say. You know, you put it out into the universe, and it's beginning to happen. So we really wish you luck, and I know lots of things can go before you. So it's not a deal done until it's signed, sealed, and delivered, as they say.
Definitely.
Yeah, but when you get the keys, come and share. You know, show us around, and
We'd love to.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. Whatever state it's in, you know, it's really interesting.
And I think also when people can just visualize now, you know, if anyone can help, it's just a 3-bedroom house, and it's going to have a care on site. Costs about 350,000. That could make a difference to 3 children's lives and literally change the course of their life. And when you think of it being so simple, it's not a hard concept.
Yeah. Are you able to say what sort of area it's in?
Not at the moment, if that's okay. Just while we get everything sorted and accepted, hopefully.
Great. All right.
But I did want to just go back. I think it's one slide.
Sure.
I wanted to share it with the viewers. So this is a quote which I thought it really struck a chord with me when I found it. So it says, "If you can help a child, you don't have to spend years preparing an adult."
Yeah, well,
and I wanted to leave that thought with people, because this just comes back to my point. Rather than try and react and to help people who have already fallen on the side, you know, let's find a way to prevent. So we then don't have to try and correct, and not correct, but try and help that person get well and get what they need in life. If we come at it from the beginning, then, you know, we're making the world a better place for these children.
Yeah, you know, we've all got to do our little bit, and it's really good to hear back from you. Really good to hear some really great news. Please, as soon as you sign on the dotted line and you get the keys, contact us, and we'd love for you to show us around. You know, before, just whatever it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as your journey progresses, share it, because we'd love you to do more and more of this stuff. This is great. I'm really chuffed that you've managed to make it happen. And thank you so much for sharing and taking the time out. Brilliant.
And thank you both for being part of this journey. Because remember, it was Charanjit that very kindly asked me to do this last minute interview.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it like yesterday.
And what we thought might be, I mean, you remember Charanjit, he said, oh, you know, we'll talk for 5-10 minutes. It was 43 minutes long.
I know. I'm so glad I asked you. But sometimes there's no coincidences, is it? Things are meant to happen for a reason, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
No, most definitely. Most definitely. That day we were all gravitating towards one another, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the lastminute.com thing. And look, it's great news. I'm so pleased you've managed to make it happen, and I really wish you luck. I hope it all goes well. And please come back, show us what you've bought, because I think it'll inspire other people to take part in your projects, you know, and that's what we want to do. Yeah. It's great. You know, I talk to a lot of people, and they always talk about there's a lot of homeless people. We should help them. We're in the property business. Very few people manage to do it. So brilliant. Well done to you for getting it actions, making it happen, and share the good news with us. Yeah.
And I think just a message for everyone, really. You know, it doesn't really matter who we help in life, but help someone.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what love is, what makes the world go round. And I always remember when I first started working with Crisis at Christmas, I did that for many, many years. And there was a guy, we both worked in the same Debenhams store at one point in our lives. And I remember looking at him, just thought, goodness. And I thought, the path that we've both taken in life, and here he is homeless, and here I am. And that could have been, you know, it could have been me. And even I was out with one of my property mastermind groups earlier this week, and a lady, she had presented on social housing, and she said herself, you know, at one point she'd lost her business and she could have become homeless. And it just goes back to my point, you know, why do I do all of this? It's to help others. And actually what I didn't say, and it's slightly upsetting, so I'll try to hold back the tears. Smile. So I've lost my sister when she was 10, and I had a instant reaction to help people, just get my thoughts together. And I was only 18. And my sister's name was Mary. And eventually over the years, after 9 years of blotting my life out, going out partying and not really doing, well, I was doing stuff with my life, but not, I mean, I'd gone to uni and all of that, but I didn't have a purpose. And I woke up one day and I thought, what am I doing with my life? And then that's how all the philanthropy work started. And I started with the homeless, and it's been with lots of individual random causes, and with care leavers, with refugees. It doesn't matter. It goes back to my point. Yes, we're doing children's care homes here because I'm doing this because I can see that my vision is really clear. I can see exactly how we can have a huge impact and do something really strategic. I would love to do something more for the homeless, and I think that will come later on. But I'm in a position at the moment where we can do something very easily, and the vision is clear, and the steps to get there is really clear. And as we progress into this, then I know we will be able to do more strategic stuff. But it just goes back to my point. Doesn't matter who you help, just help someone in life, and you know, keep that, you know, keep that circle of love going. So I got a bit tearful, but
no, thank you.
But that's my why.
Thank you. That's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Bernadette. Very obviously moving and touching. And I think that, yeah, it's really great to get your why. And we can see why you're so passionate about this now that you've told us that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, great. No, absolutely. And thank you for putting it out there. You know, we've all got reasons we'd like to do something. Not all of us take the steps that you've taken. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for letting us into your magic project. And we wish you all the luck. Please come back, show us what you've done, show us each little step.
We will share what we're doing.
Brilliant. And, you know, most of all, thank you for taking your time and sharing it with us, and you know, that purpose. And we hope to see you in a really short space of time with some more progress.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Charanjit. I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity today.
No, we're grateful that you've given us the chance to share in your project. And it, you know, That's really good of you. Please come back, share more, and we really wish you luck, and we wish this goes well, and onwards and upwards for bigger and better, right?
It's been a pleasure, Bernadette. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We look forward to your next update.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Now I've got to work out how to turn this thing off. By the way, this will probably be live on YouTube channel and at the Facebook. So if you want to share it with anybody.
Oh, I will, most definitely.
And what we're trying to do is make a diary of your projects so that you can share the journey with everybody and see how it progresses. Yeah.
Thanks, Dill.
Right. Cheers. Get stop live. Thank you very much. It's really great to see you again and see the progress.